Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today we've got Tim English from Inspiring Business Growth. So welcome on the podcast, Tim. Thanks for taking the time to visit us in the country.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been a lovely drive up here, living in an amazing place.
So we're going to talk, there's a lot to unpack about your journey, but I guess one of the places we always start is when you were at school, what was the dream? What did you feel that you wanted to do?
Oh. Do you know, there's little things I can remember in school. I think, first of all, I remember career people coming in and what you're going to do and what you need to be.
Yeah.
And I said I want to be a librarian. I thought, I don't want to be a librarian. You know, you go through all the sort of things what you like and things like that. But I can't get past when I think of that, really. I always wanted to be a professional snooker player. I think from a young age, I sort of always wanted to be a professional snooker player. So I didn't really think a lot outside that.
Yeah.
My grandfather sort of introduced me to snooker when I was young. Got like really fond memories of him. He'd be smoking his rolly cigarettes. We'd have like a little snooker table on his kitchen table and we'd be playing snooker. And I've always sort of you just sort of got hooked with snooker really then. You know, and when I was about 11, 12, I started going onto the bigger tables. But I think, I didn't really think about anything else about being a professional snooker player, if I'm being honest.
And the thing is with snooker and obviously elite sport, it's one of those things where you need hours and hours and hours and hours and hours worth of practice, you know, to dedicate it to that. So like with yourself, was that one of the things did other things have to almost take second place because snooker was the main thing, or did you manage to keep a healthy balance?
Do you know what? I think I managed to keep a healthy balance-ish, if I'm being honest. I think
that's good.
I can, I remember how I sort of got quite serious about this. Used to have tournaments on a Saturday morning and someone told me about one in school. So I went down and I was won a couple of games now, and then I won one of the tournaments. And I thought, flipping heck, I'm quite good at this, you know. And so for winning the tournament, you used to get like a couple of hours of free time in the club.
Right.
So and it sort of went from there. With I think the club owner could see I was quite good. I had like a coach at the time, and he got me some extra free time. So literally, snooker was straight after school. So I'd do my school, and then chuck my bags in the house, and then straight down the snooker club for a couple of hours, 4 till 6 after school. Yeah.
So obviously you're getting good at that, right? And then obviously the people are asking you in careers, what do you want to do for a living? You still, I want to be a snooker player. Yeah. So what did that look like? You know, how did that unpack? You know, if you want to be a professional snooker player, is it you get money when you win it and the rest is all amateur, or is it? Was there sponsorship? I mean, how did that journey go?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually about school, because remember the YTS? I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember this yet. I'm 47 now, but I'm getting on a bit. But they had this YTS scheme at the time, and I was talking, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a professional snooker player. And they said, oh, you can. There's a YTS scheme. You can go in the clubs, and you iron the tables in the clubs, and you work in the club, and you get, I think at the time it was 16 quid a week for doing that.
Right.
So I said, oh, brilliant. Went home. Went to my mum and said, Mum, you know, we can go on like 9 of the tables in the snooker club. You know, it's all fun. I guess 60. She said, you're not doing that. I was I think my parents were really good in sort of keeping me, not stable is the wrong word, but keeping me focused and having something else after snooker as well, potentially as well.
Yeah.
But that was my first sort of memory with that, thinking I was going to be ironing snooker tables for a living, you know, until I made it as a pro. My mum was like, no, you're not doing that. So when I'd done work experience, I'd done like an estate agent or something like that as well, or done the random thing. But when I got to 16, my plan was to turn professional. I went to the World U21 Championships in Helsinki.
Wow.
I was 16 at the time. I couldn't understand when I was 16 why my mum wouldn't let me go alone on my own. You know, having a 14-year-old boy now and thinking when he's 16, there's no way in the world he'd be let alone on his own to, go across, you know. So the plan was basically to go to the World Under-21 Championships. My plan was going to be to turn professional. You know, I'd done my GCSEs. I did work quite hard for my GCSEs, you know. I did study for them. Probably not as hard as I should have, but I did study quite a bit for them, you know. And I didn't do great out there. You know, I lost in the last 16.
Right.
Out there, I had visions of doing a lot better than that. And it put a little bit of doubt in my mind. And my mum had a week to work on me, basically. She was like, you know, you've done well in your GCSEs. Because while I was out there, I had my GCSE results, and I'd done pretty well in my GCSE. She said, why don't you just do your A-levels now and potentially do snooker after that, you know. Just make sure you get A-levels better. And it was just because I hadn't done very well, you know, as well as I wanted to, you know. I just thought that's what I did. I'd done up to my A levels, but then life sort of got in the way a little bit. Then I sort of met a girl, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Sort of snooker went the wayside as you're growing up a little bit, and it just sort of fell to one side then, and I got a job working in accounts in the NHS, and went basically probably sharing a bit too much by ear as well. But when the relationship didn't sort of work out, I went, what am I going to do now? So I went to university. Back in the day when you didn't have to pay for it as well. So I thought I'll just do accounts. That sounds quite good. But I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do in my life, if I'm being honest. I wanted to do snooker, but it's sort of like the intensity of it dropped a little bit. Yeah. So I'd done a degree in accountancy and finance in university, and got to the last year, and then someone approached me and said, do you want to turn professional? Because during this time I was still playing snooker. I've won pretty much everything, Welsh snooker wise. I've won like the under 14s, 16s, under 18s. I've won the Welsh Championship twice. I lost in the final twice, on the last frame twice, but we're not going to talk about that. That's fine. That's still too painful.
You can see it now.
It's just, so I'd always been playing, but I can't explain why I wasn't so focused on turning professional, but just life had gotten away, I think. Yeah. And end of university, someone came and said, do you want to? And I was like, why not? So I just had the best 3 years. I was really lucky to see part of the world with it, which I would never have seen before. I sort of had a really good sponsorship behind me as well, with Elite. There was something called Elite Cymru at the time, where they used to, the elite athletes in Wales got this sponsorship from them. Yeah, athlete snooker in it, but they used to pay me whack. So I was happy to take that. They call me whatever they wanted at the time for that. So, and I had some really cool stuff there as well. Maybe I'll talk about this a little bit later as well. But access to sports psychologists and all the facilities at Sophia Gardens, which is the Welsh Institute of Sport at the time. So I'd done it for 3 years, and didn't quite work out. I think it's really difficult playing top level sport or really high level sport as well. I think you see the wins, but it's hard. You don't see what it's like when you lose for people as well. I think just not a sob story here at all. I think because no. I think one of the biggest things in life for people is, and again maybe we'll talk about this a bit later, but the biggest regrets is when you don't have to do something. That's the biggest regret. Here, there's so much. A couple of my friends are really good footballers, and they didn't have the courage to go for a little bit more or back themselves a bit more. And you think, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and you didn't have you didn't want to back yourself.
It's funny, isn't it? I always used to joke in football. Everyone that who's played football has got some hard luck story why they didn't make it pro, And I think certainly when you are playing, the last thing you want to admit that probably you're not good enough. But at the end of the day, sport is a game, and it's a case of there are those that are absolutely gifted at it or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee long-term success. To have got there or to have played at a level is good, and is an amazing achievement. And I think for me, it's a case of you've played it out, and you could beat yourself up that it didn't work, or it could have worked, or it should have worked. You can't live your life in that place of regret.
No, 100%.
At the end of the day, elite sport, whether it's running, snooker, darts, whatever, you're talking about 10, 15 years, and the reality of that is you've got a whole life to live beyond that. And there's a whole load of other roles that you'll play in life, more than just the sports person, father, husband. There are so many other roles for us to play that, we can live a life of regret. And I think for me, what helps me is generational thinking, that, you have the ability to make changes. And if you're in a better place than the previous generation, even if you turn the dial 1 or 2%, you've played your part.
I think 100%. I think it's that regret. This is one of my big bears. You see this so much on social media. I've got no regrets in life. Yeah. Well, that's an absolute lie, isn't it? I mean, it's like we've all got regrets. There's ways I've spoken to people. There's things I've done that I wish I hadn't acted in a certain way. But you move on from it. You don't let it hinder you back. I think this is the biggest thing. But I think the biggest thing I see is people who want to do something but haven't got the courage to do it. And you're just like, come on, you can do this. I mean, and I think just going back to the snooker, what made it really difficult when it didn't work out was I was just so close. I think I scratched a living for 3 years. I'd done all right. Same myself. But
were there any names that you played that we would recognise?
Yeah. I'm not going to go for the Finns, but I played most a lot of the top players, I think. But
you got a famous victory in there.
Yeah, I've got quite a few. I'm not going to say,
okay.
But it's like you're playing with that level of guys, aren't you? You know, there's I've got some, I've got lots of ones where I've been absolutely hammered as well, but it's
yeah.
But I think just playing it in them 3 years, in the first year, I lost a match which would have got me in the top 96 of the world, which was the TV talks. It's very much like golf at the time.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a mess, snooker, to be honest, until I don't know if you've heard of Barry Hearn.
Yeah.
He's changed it in fairness, Matchroom, and they come in and change. But like when I was in there, like tobacco sponsorship was going out of it, alcohol sponsorship was going out of it. That was a major amount of money coming in, which went out.
Yeah.
The first year I was doing it, I lost a match which cost me over £12,000. I lost to a guy where I would have started as favourite as well, and I lost a match 5-3, and just devastated when I lost it. So I remember coming into, where I was staying at the time, just chucked my phone across, it doesn't help when your phone's in bits because you're thinking that's what really helped, doesn't it? But it's like you've worked so hard to get to that point, and I hadn't performed like I knew I could. And then in the second year I was playing, then I lost in the final of the World Amateur Championship, which was out in Egypt at the time. They called it World Amateur, but it was like professionals could enter if you win in the top 96.
Right.
So it was professionals out there, as well. And there was a guy, I'm not sure if you heard him, called Ding. Would you have heard of him at all?
No.
There was a snooker player called Ding, and he was one of the biggest Chinese guys who's ever come out. And he was only about 15 at the time, I think 16, and he lost in the semi-finals. And it's the time you think, right, this is on, and just for the first time, and just played awful in the final, and I remember playing in the final and just wasn't happening for me, whatever. I was hanging on to the person, and it was the first of like 11 frames, and it was going like 1-0 down, 1-1. I was never a front, and I went 6-5 down, and like the guy needed 2 snookers for, and it would have been 6-all, and I've played such a crazy shot. I've tried to swerve around about 14 balls to hit this, and I've basically left him with a free ball, and he's cleared up to go 7-5 up, and it was like, oh, and just my head sort of gone a bit, 9-5 down before, and he ended up beating me 11-6, but that's how many people get a chance to play in a world final,
Well, that's it. And I think, I remember talking to with a guy called Vernon Samuels, and he was telling, he did the triple jump, and he ended up making the Olympics. He's actually been on the podcast, and he basically got to the finals, and he got to the Olympics, and he missed the final by a centimetre. And they said to him, but that must be devastating, you not to make the finals. And he just said, but I made it to the Olympics. He said, not many people make it to the Olympics. And the mindset was this. He said, I achieved my dream. My dream was I'll make it to the Olympics. I got to the semi-final. I missed out by the final by 1 centimetre, but I made it. And he now, he lives a life where he's working with young people and stuff like that, and helping them get on in life. And funnily enough, his son's a basketball player for the Bristol Flyers, and it's an amazing story in the fact that his mindset that I didn't make it, but I've got further along than a whole load of people. And I think what we don't often think about is there's elite sport, and there's a whole tier of people that don't make it but do really well, and actually we don't champion those people either, because the reality is that experience can be put to good use in a million other things. Could be sport, could be helping the next generation, but it could help you in business, it could help you in life, because there are certain lessons that you will learn along the route, like how to handle setbacks, for example, and mindset and resilience and all that other stuff that you can apply to other things. And I think as you get older, you start to realize that maybe it is everything at the time, but when you look back, it wasn't. And you can actually give people fresh perspective to say, hey, you might have lost this one, but let's get the learning from it and let's go again type thing. And
it's that reframing, isn't it? Because for years I didn't have that reframing.
Yeah,
that's still stuck. If I'm being honest, probably once a week. That's I go back to that shot, and you think Finns could have been, but it's catching them thoughts all the time, isn't it? I think, but like for years it was just how many people get to a world final, and you don't get many chances. And I blew it.
Yeah,
that's where I was. I was devastated when I lost. That's probably the hardest loss that I've had, because I got a once in a lifetime opportunity. How many people get to play in a world final?
Exactly.
And I've played like a man who's never played snooker before. But I was going to say my mother could beat me. It wasn't that bad, but it was like, it was just I played awful, and that was a tough one to take. You know, I think sometimes when you play well and you walk off, you can dip your cap and think, well done, you deserved, you know, and he did deserve it. You know, he obviously beat me quite convincingly in the final, but you just think, I was nowhere near my best, and that's the hard bit sometimes. And I think, just going back to the third year as well, then when I was playing, where it was like the challenge tour with golf, and you had to finish in the top 8, and I was playing someone from Holland, and I was 2-0 up, and I missed the ball to go 3-0 up, and he's just played unbelievable, beat me 4-2, and I finished 9th.
Wow.
You know, and I think this is where I had a really honest conversation with myself, where I thought, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've lost 3 matches in them 3 years, which would have got me onto the TV tour, where, you know, the money's starting to go out of it a bit now as well. The money's significantly dropped, and it's sort of a risk and reward thing, really. And I'd seen some people in their late 20s, early 30s scratching a living, and I just thought, I don't want it to be me. You know, but I took 3 months just to think about this. But I just had an honest conversation with myself and just thought, do I think I'm good enough to get on the TV tour 1,000,000%? If I carried on, I think I would have probably, you know, got on. I'm pretty convinced of that. Do I think I'm good enough to get in the top 32, top 16 of the world and stay there for a while so I can earn a significant income? And I was like, if I'm honest with myself, no. I've got to get a proper job. Yeah. So,
and it's a hard thing, isn't it? Like when you put in all that time, all that effort, all that knowledge to come to that conclusion and be honest with yourself and go, actually, you know, that's it. You know, I've got to make a different choice. And so, you know, you could like go on a road trip across America and hustle people for money and cash. You know, you know, you see all these films, don't you? You're ex-pro here, and then, but the reality is you've made a decision then. So obviously you've lived the dream, say, for 3 years, and now you've made that decision. What did the first day at work look like after you've made that decision then?
Oh, it was awful, because I think as well, like I won the World Championship, and that was my last game I ever played. So I thought, like, I'm going to quit. You know, everyone's saying you're not quitting, you're going to be back next year. And I was like, no, that's me done. It was a nice way to sort of finish when I won the World Championship, but it's sort of, so I had a little bit though, am I doing this a little bit too early? Do you mean? But I just thought I was done. But I literally went from playing snooker in China, you know, in the same year to basically being a T-boy in an accountancy practice in one of the roughest parts of Cardiff.
Wow.
I'm not going to say what part of Cardiff it is, because I've done a talk on this. Someone asked me to do a talk on this, and I accidentally named the place. And it was 4 hours from where this place was in Cardiff, but obviously there's 2 people in from this place. So I was backtracking so much, and it was like, we made a joke and it was fine, but it was just like not a nice place to Cardiff. So going in, knowing I was basically the T-boy, you know, where I just had to really take a massive humility pill, where like everyone locally knew what I did. You go down, you know, I was known as, you know, whenever you go out in the pub or something, people would be like, I was a snooker Tim and stuff like that. Going through school, I always won awards for playing. I didn't win it for maths or English. I'd win it for playing snooker for Wales and stuff like that, you know. So that was a massive come down, because a lot of my identity was tied in what I did. So like when
that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that your identity is tied up with being a successful snooker player. And then when you make that decision, say, well, I'm not going to go any further with it, is then you've got that identity crisis. And I think that's where you have to reinvent yourself, I guess. And I think you obviously had to reinvent yourself. So did you go away and say, right, take some time yourself and say, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go after that with the same dedication that I did in sport? I mean, how did you get to the point of where you are now? Because there must have been a decision at some point that says, right. Because I think you obviously got the tenacity and the knowledge and the insight, and you know, to go after something. But did you have that pep talk with yourself, or was it someone talking to you that says, you know what, Tim, you know, this is what you need to do?
Yeah, honest answer is I don't know. I think it was a really tough few years after snooker. You know, I think when I did my first accountancy exam, I thought I'd blag it, didn't really revise for it, I got 25%.
Wow.
You know, so I was like, right, I can't blag these. So I'd gone into a job which I'm the junior of the juniors. I've come up really short in the first exam. After that was fine, because I realised you've got to work for these, you know. And
you've got to work hard.
But I just basically went to work then, like as I said, as a junior, and then I went into more senior role in a practice, and then I went to work in industry for 3.5 years, but my confidence took a big hit.
Yeah,
you know, sure. I think, but this was the biggest issue, I think, when I was playing snooker, was confidence. There's a massive thing about this word, humility.
Yeah.
You know, and I heard something that really stuck with me years ago, and it's really helped me. But like, humility is not thinking less yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Yeah.
And for me, I always want to treat people as I want to be treated. You know, when my dad come from really poor background in the Rhondda Valleys. He did really well for himself, but he always tried to tell me, don't
forget where you come from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he put it across, it's not as far, take it to the other extreme, but it's really interesting going forward all these years, trying to work out where a lot of this stuff where I'm struggling with confidence has come from.
Yeah.
And it's like when I'm playing snooker, there's a story I share when I was playing snooker where I'm playing a snooker tournament, and I'm not going to go into because I've shared it so much in other stuff, but it's like, basically I've got $4,000 on one shot. A final black is about 250 people watching. I got $4,000 on one shot, and the black's just across the bottom rail. And I've got down to here. It's back in the day as well when you could smoke inside, so like the atmosphere's electric. You can hardly see the table. It was like back, you imagine old school snooker. It was like that. And I've got down to it this one shot, and I've seen like 3 white balls.
Wow.
And I've just hit the one in the middle, and I thought, well, you're clown, there's £4,000 on this. Yeah. Take a minute. So I said to the ref, can you just clean the white ball? And he's done that, and the crowd's gone, ooh. And yeah, just basically just tried to compose myself and put a rag over my head to give myself a cheeky dig in the head, because I thought, if you've got $4,000 on the shot, you don't want to be seeing 3 white balls. You want to be seeing one and crystal clear.
Yeah.
So I got down again to hit this ball, and it's like furry. Yeah, that's the only way I can explain it. And and thankfully it's not free there, but there's one, but it's a bit furry. So I thought I've got to play it slow, and if I miss it, it's just on the hole. So I've played this ball slow, and it's wobbled, and I thought I missed it, if I'm being honest. And then it's just dropped.
Wow.
So I've just got nuts. I've won this because it was quite a prestigious tournament at the time as well. And it was at that point where I thought, though, do you know what? And this was like in I think it was the last year or the last, but 1 year before. I've got to go and see someone about this, because this isn't good if I'm seeing 3 white balls under pressure. So yeah, I went to see someone in the sports psychologist. Still remember her name, Kath, and in Sophia Gardens. And my parents are still together. I've had no major traumas in life, but when we go through life, things stick to us, and they come out in different situations. And I just went, ugh, for about an hour and a half. I was like, where the heck has all that come from? Do you mean?
Yeah.
But I think that was the start of like starting to look at what's going on in your mind. But I think one of the things now where I feel like I'm completely unrecognizable is the confidence I have in myself compared to where I was back then. And again, whether it's getting older maybe and maturing, or whether it's learning to think differently. But I would have loved to go back and play snooker with the confidence I got in myself now.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially like when you're playing to sports to a high level, a lot of the time it's just that little bit what's going in your head is the difference.
It's an interesting one, because I look back at me. I think sometimes you can be a good sports person, but playing the wrong sport. And I think I look back now at school, although I love playing football and that's I had fun with it or whatever. I think if I had my time again, I was probably a better rugby player than I was a footballer, which at the time was like, I just want to play football.
Yeah.
Because rugby's like just a poor man's football, and it was amateur at the time, right?
Yeah.
Whereas football was it'd been professional for years, and it nowhere near what rugby is now. So I think it's, and our school was very much rugby orientated, and they kept trying to want me to play rugby, and I was like, I'm going to play football. And I look back now thinking, well, that was a bit of a miss. And then I think, I remember the last sports day I ever did, I used to always run 800 metres and 1,500 metres. And I'd win certain events, but when like the best of the best came, I'd always finish third. And at the time I had a bit of asthma, and I used to feel like a concrete thing on me, and I just didn't have that edge to get the win against these 2 great runners. Yeah. And it was a strange one, because then I think it was the last on sports day I changed my event. Everyone was talking about 400 meters, and I don't know why all of a sudden everyone was like getting into 400 meters or whatever. And I was fairly quick, and that's what helped me playing football. But of course I run, like far with 800, 1,500 meters and cross country and stuff. And so the very first time I run it, I run it like on sports day, and I finished like literally like that against the county champion.
Wow.
And that was it. That was the end of athletics. Like off school, I was finished, and that was the end of it.
And that's the first time you've run.
And that was the first time I ran 400 meters competitively, and I was like, it's the wrong sport. But again, it was like, I just go and play football, and that's what I did. I focused on football. Again, looking back, it was like I should have just gone after the 400 meters, because that was the thing that came most natural to me, because I had the ability to run in distance, but I had the pace. And 400 meters was like the best event. It was brilliant. So I do enjoy watching the 400 meters now. And yet sometimes it's, you look at it and you don't have the right people around you. You don't have the right coaches. And certainly our school, I mean, there was a strike every week for some other, cause. And I look back and I go, well, obviously had great fun with football, coached it, played it, run teams. And, it was great. I love it. I still enjoy it. But I think I was probably better in other things, other sports. And yet it's learning those principles and those lessons now where my game's entrepreneurship. That's it. That's the game. And I guess that's what happened with yourself. You obviously do an accounting, and eventually you get to a point where you wake up one morning and say, I want to do it for myself? Or how did you get to starting your own business?
Really interesting one that was, really, to be honest, because just when I finished snooker, I always wanted to have my own accountancy practice. Yeah. I wasn't massively passionate about it, if I'm being honest. I just thought that's something I want to do. Yeah. I was working in practice. I went into industry for 3.5 years. So I went to work for a company that basically makes everything inside a hotel room and trade internationally, So, and then I thought, I need to think about starting my own practice now. So I made the decision to start my own practice, but it took me about a year to pull the trigger to do it. Yeah. And I've been planning it for a year, what I'm going to do and things like that as well, and just couldn't do it. And I won't go into it all now, but literally one weekend something happened and I thought, I've got to do this. So I went into work, handed my resignation letter in to my boss. I had 0 clients, I had 0 income, and just thought, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. And handed my during the time I had to work, whatever, I think it was a couple of months or whatever, I picked up one of my mates, which was, I think, about 1,500 quid or £1,000, something like that. Yeah. So when I started my practice, all I had was that's all I had.
One client, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just sitting the first day while I was there thinking, flipping heck, this is real. Yeah. Scary time, and my wife got pregnant a few months later as well. We just moved house. She's always been really supportive of me, my wife as well. I think that's so important when you're doing stuff, is you do have a partner that's supportive.
100%. Biggest. I think people don't talk about that enough.
No.
I think for me, I see many people want to do the entrepreneur journey, and go on that journey, but it takes two, right?
100%.
You obviously, if you're single, it's on you. But if you're in a couple, it's not. Oh, I do entrepreneurship, and the other one, just tags along. Everyone feels it.
Yeah.
If it's going well, it's going well, and everyone feels it. But if it's going bad, then everyone feels it. That's the reality of it. And I think for me, it's very much I couldn't do anything I do, without my wife and Claire and the way that we do life. And it's supporting each other at different moments. There'd be great days for me, there'd be bad days for me, and vice versa. But when you've got each other, it helps you. I mean, I guess that the key thing is that we're still moving towards a goal. Yeah. It might not always be perfect, but at least we're moving towards that goal. And I think for you, I guess it's the same. You've got someone on your team. And I guess going back to that is that within snooker, is there a team around you? Like, have you got a coach and have you got this, that, and the other? Is it very lonely?
No, do you know what? There was a guy who Saturday mornings when the tournament started, he put a bit of time into me, just to help me there. But yeah, I had a bit of a weird, I was quite an attacking player. That's probably why, but I was, I tried to have a coach. Funny enough, I went to Bristol to have a coach. He was with Ronnie O'Sullivan at the time. And I thought, he completely done my head in. Right. I think I'd had 3 sessions with him. He worked with other players. But again, this is the thing, is finding people around you who fit you, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
But he was trying to tell me to put me in a traditional sort of, cue action, change it, and it didn't work with me. And I thought, this isn't working really, But I think that's the key thing, is having the right people around you, and no one does anything on their own, do they, right? It's we all like to take credit, don't we? But it's like, you look at it, we all need people around us.
100%. I think that, with me, when I play football, I played better for some coaches as I did others. Now, still, I obviously got better as the years went on, but I played better for some coaches and not so good for others. Some managed to make me want to run that extra mile, 2 miles or whatever on the pitch, work harder than anybody else, and others is like, I can't be bothered. This guy's just talking nonsense, and he's got his team in his head, and and I think that was it. It's like, I think that's the thing. Sometimes when I I think the thing is you can have an ability for sport, but the people around you will either make you or break you.
Yeah.
And I think when I look back now, when I became a manager, I was very aware of that. If I'm dropping someone, I'd tell them why.
Yeah.
Because I often wasn't told why. And then if you're playing out of your skin, it's like, how do you keep on the level, and keep you going? And I think for me, when I became a manager in the later part of me playing football, you see the game so differently.
Yeah.
And as a player, you start to see how your perceptions of what a manager thought were actually completely different to when you're a manager.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went through a phase where one manager, didn't matter how well you played, the last 10 minutes he'd take both wingers off.
Yeah.
And it used to drive me nuts. It's like, why can I not just play 90 minutes? But then when you're managing the team, it's actually the one that's probably the easiest that's not going to affect the team. You don't want to be changing a centre-back in the last 10 minutes of the game, You don't want to be changing the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
You might take a striker off, but, if you've got a guy that can put the ball in it, you really want him on the pitch. But when you were younger, it's like, I'm a winger. I'm not going to come off, And I started to see things very differently. And I mean, have that experience of playing and also managing got me to see life very differently, but understanding that you have a duty of care for everybody, And I think in the past it was a bit merciless, Well, you can play, this guy can't play, and it's like, was one of your mates, now he's not playing, he's left, and now you're like at a club that you joined because he was there, and there's none of your mates there. Different things like that was difficult. So I guess it's being often compared like sport and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So when did you think, I'm really enjoying the job? Where it went from just doing the job, starting your own business, to actually, I'm actually meant to be doing this. Where do you think that sort of happened?
One of the things I didn't realize when I started my business, you had to speak to people. I know this sounds so stupid.
Yeah.
My confidence, people wouldn't believe me at the time, because I obviously used to play in front of quite a few people, and you put yourself out there with snooker and stuff like that. But I was quite introverted. My confidence outside, that felt like that was my home.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And when I started my accounts, I share this story so much. But the second day, I was going to go into the local village with my business cards and tell them why they should use me as an accountant. There was a kitchen shop there. Brilliant. I could see the owner was there. Walked in. I'm going to tell him why they should use me as an accountant, and walked up to him, and I just went, and just I shouldn't be allowed in society on my own. Honestly, it was that bad. It was just, I don't know what came out of my mouth. It just wasn't English. It was really bad. And I just I cringed in front of him. I remember him looking at me thinking, who the heck is this? Do you mean? And I just cringed and walked outside, and I cringed again when I walked outside, and I just phoned up two of my mates. One was in carpet sales, and the other one was in BT area manager, I think he was at the time. He said, how do you walk in somewhere and talk to people? I can't do it. And I think how I picked up any clients in them first few years, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because I was so poor at communication and so poor at talking to people. I don't know, but it's something that took me years and years to get over. It's part of, I'll go into what I do now, but in a bit now, but it's part of what I really help a lot of people with now. A lot of the thing that was causing that was going on in between my ears. But yeah, sort of.
So it's a really interesting one, because for me, my first experience of running a business was car washing. And so naturally, the part of car washing is you've got to knock on a stranger's door. So I learned to talk to strangers just by knocking on random doors, because I knew in the pocket of that person was money that would pay for the things that I really wanted, and all I had to do was deliver a service.
That's such a great thing to do at a young age, to get that in as well. There's little things in life which shape you, and it's just unrealised, and it's amazing.
And that's it. And I think that those, fortuitously, I just made those decisions. I did it, and but you're right. There are a lot of people that are entrepreneurs or in business, and the last thing they want to do is sell. They're really good at what they do, which is why they want to start their own business and maybe build something. But the sales piece, the talking to strangers piece, the networking, is well, can't I just put all my money on ads? Well, yeah, you can, but the percentages are quite low. Whereas you could be in a room and have one conversation that could change your entire life. And the odds of getting that online are even slimmer. So get in the room and talk to people. And I think it's funny how those different things that play in your life, like with elite sport, and it's that you can use that use those lessons again. You know, everything builds up to a certain point, and I think for me, very much learned to glean the lessons that I learned when I was younger to apply to now. And I guess that's the thing, when you get to a point where you've learnt it all and then you retire.
That's it, isn't it, Jimmy? And I think as well, when you go through anything, you've got such an opportunity to help others. Yeah. This is my philosophy in life. I think the people, because you can understand people's feelings, right? What they're going through and things like that. But I think if you've gone through something, you know, even if it's something horrific in life, you've got such a massive opportunity to help others with it. Yeah. You know.
So Tim, you talk about you got your accountancy practice and it grows, and then you mentioned off camera you've started a few other things as well. So what are you involved with now?
Yeah. So basically, started the accountancy practice. Just fell into all the traps of, as you see, you know, which I see so often now, where you're discounting work together, working all hours, getting overwhelmed, getting stressed. And in 2016, so I do something called the accountant's table, and that came from 2016. So in 2016,
still can't get away from tables, eh?
No, exactly. Do you know what? I hadn't thought about that. There's some subconscious thing there, isn't there? Without me even thinking, I never thought of that. But it's probably there somewhere, isn't it?
Always around the table.
Yeah, always around the table. But I just thought my business was not where it should be. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't in a good place. I was couldn't see a way out. Hated what I was doing. You know, just felt. I wasn't like suicidal or anything like that, but I think looking back, I was probably depressed. Just thought, I've got to make some massive changes here. I can't carry on like this, you know, and been thinking this for a couple of years, but come back. I just wanted someone there who had been through what I was going through, who I could bounce ideas off. Someone I could talk to, someone who could help me with these big changes I'm making. There was nothing about at the time. Yeah. So that's where the idea for the accountant's table come from. But I basically made them changes, made some massive cock-ups along the way, especially with regards to pricing and systems and things like that, but transformed my business, to be honest. And then COVID hit, and that was actually, that was a massive part of my life. That was actually, which I didn't realise, COVID. So I remember it was just such a crazy, I know we probably had about 1 million people talk about COVID and it affects them, but it was such a crazy time, wasn't it? Because like I remember on a Saturday seeing people going into the Asda's in Cardiff by me, all these masks on, and you're just like, oh, grow up, come on. You know, you've seen all this, and then literally a couple of days later, you're having this conversation with clients where it's hit, and you're like, wow, I've massively underestimated what's going on here, because again, with the news, you see scaremongering all the time and things, and it's just like, I've massively underestimated what's going on here. But I remember having that conversation with the staff members and basically saying, you know, look, I don't know where this is going, but your family's just as important as my family. Yeah. But our clients' families are just as important as our families as well. Yeah. And you're going to get paid before me, I'll tell you that now. Yeah. I'm going to try and keep everyone on as long as I can. I've got no clue where this is going to go. But, you know, and this was a conversation I had with being furloughed as well, you know. Yeah. I would have absolutely loved to have 80% of my money, and seeing people walk the mountains and having a life. I was working my nuts off during that time, trying to keep people in. I think one of the biggest successes of my business was the amount of businesses I saved during that time. Because no one had a clue what was going on at the time. And I think this was a massive part of what I'm actually doing now as well, to be honest, where I didn't have a day off for about 3-4 weeks, you know, but I'm feeling all right at the moment. I'm just knackered, but I know I can't carry on like this. And everyone wanted to speak to me, you know. It was like the government had announced something, and then they, you know, they wouldn't speak to staff members. People wanted to speak to me because they thought I knew more. I was like, I've literally heard this 10 minutes ago. Yeah. The same as you. Yeah. So I thought, it was from almost a selfish perspective as well, thinking I can't carry on. I thought, how am I going to stop all these questions and free up some of my time and help people as well? I thought, you know, I'm going to stick a webinar on. Scared the life out of me. You know, it was back in the day as well when you couldn't look at people because they would die of COVID. Remember that?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So I remember doing this webinar where I got... just thought, I'm going to do this 1.5 hour webinar. This is everything we know at the moment. This is all the support we got, whether you're in England, whether you're in Wales. I remember being in my music group.
I remember we couldn't travel to Wales at one point.
That's when all the barriers were coming up, innit? And it was just like, and you can look back at things now in hindsight, can't you? But it's like, literally, it was such a scary time for so many people, wasn't it? It was, I remember just having people, like, there's 2 people who taught me about suicide you'd never think in a million years. And it just really affected me. And there was people just crying on the phone, collapsing, because income streams turned up overnight. You know, 100%. People have got mortgages to pay.
I remember we had a very big contract lined up with a particular thing from the schools, and it just gone. That was it. And they said, look, sorry, we can't do it. And it was a decent chunk of change. And I was like, Okay, now what? And I think for me, what kept me going were two things. One, I never lost sight of why we'd started. And two, I thought, well, everyone else is going to panic and stop. So my key to survival is to keep going. As tough it's going to be, we're going to keep going. Yeah. So we made that deep decision where we went faith, not furlough. And faith was in the, obviously I believe in God, but faith in the aspect of what we were doing was the right thing to do rather than stop it.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, in hindsight, when we talked it out like with the team and stuff, they said we were so glad that you kept going, because if you had stopped, we were also like, oh, what do we do? And it wasn't easy, right? You know, we wore the effects of that, and I think we're definitely come out of the effects of just keeping going. But what it did is it shifted us from a UK Southwest type business to an international business.
Yes.
And that's what shifted. And we are now working in multiple countries. And a lot of that was making that decision then. And I think what COVID did is accelerated those connections globally, because I was in rooms from Zoom to Clubhouse, if you remember. Clubhouse was a thing.
Yeah. Clubhouse,
I was in, I was online, I was networking, we were meeting some incredible people online. And the reality is that that's what shaped my mindset from being local to global. And if I'm honest now, I don't think that's, you thought, oh, well, we'll go back to operating as normal. No. For me, I've definitely got a much bigger global view of life and global view of operations. I've got team members that aren't in the UK. I've got clients that are, in Hungary, got clients in America and places like that. And it's been great. But it was that tough time of saying, I believe in the vision of why we're doing what we're doing, so we're going to go with it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, right? It's just being able to keep going and keep doing it.
And that's the thing when the money's not coming in, isn't it? And you've got this, and you don't know how long this is going to go on for, And
you're right, supporting your clients, because some of our clients went through horrendous times, and we had to go, don't worry.
Yeah.
And then you're off the call. You're like, oh my gosh, another one, and thankfully because of that, we got some great relationship with some of our clients, and I believe what brought us even closer together was how we reacted to things in COVID as well.
I think it's being seen as more than a number. I think this is the biggest thing for people. This is a thing for me is always like with my accountancy practice, but what I'm doing now is valuing people.
Yeah.
And seeing people as more than a number as well. I think this would be really interesting with all the stuff that's going on with AI. I'm not going to talk about AI because it's talked to death, but it's like the value of human relationships will go up, I think, with what we're doing. I think, but we're in a world where someone taught me the other day about their job and said, if I go, I'll just be replaced. I'm just a number. And I think we're talking off camera a little bit about Generation Z, and Generation Z, whatever you want to call it, and it's sort of, a lot of them are sort of seeing this, but I actually want to have more purpose in my life now.
And that was the thing. So what kept me through COVID was purpose.
Yeah.
And I think, it was like, do I make decisions based on circumstance, or do I make decisions based on conviction? And when you're attached to purpose, number one, it's all chips in. Number two, you're not competing with anyone. Yeah. You're just living out purpose. And I think that was also the thing in COVID where everyone's competing with them for the scraps. It's discount club. I'll discount. I'll get there's a website that's going to cost 10 grand. I do it for $1,000 because I need the cash. You're going to resent that, and both parties will. And so it was a case of keeping going, keeping moving, doing the right things. And for me, it really solidified that conviction piece, that those people that live after conviction and which is aligned to purpose and not allow circumstances to sway them left and right will be more successful in the long term.
Yeah.
It's not that it's less hard. It is hard. And I've certainly going into the pandemic, I went in with one company, and now I've got four now, sorry. 4 companies, so I changed. That's the other thing is you will change in the midst of crisis. You will also change. And I think for me, it was the case of I've gone from business owner to entrepreneur. I've got multiple interests now, and COVID almost forced that change, to ask me those deeper questions. And I'm definitely a stronger person for it. It was tough. It was horrendous. It was tough for a whole load of people. And thank God I'm still here and we're still moving forward. But, like yourself supporting all those people is what keeps the relationships for the long term. You'll be remembered for your actions for many years to come.
Yeah, I hope so. But I think my key foot was just helping people. You get to know people's families.
Yeah.
You know, the bits, I didn't sleep well for a lot of COVID and it wasn't my business. COVID was the best time for the accountancy business. It was flying for the business.
Yeah.
There was loads of accountants who sort of like furloughed staff, shut down. I think this is the time when your clients need you the most.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, going back to webinars, we just done this hour and a half webinar starting off and I was petrified doing it. I'd used Zoom about 3 times. Still struggling with a lot of confidence things and, you know, in certain areas, I got way down the line with it, but like presenting, I've never done anything like that, you know. Yeah. And yeah, just done this one from the music room and threatened the kids with all sorts of other people out of them if they made a noise downstairs, you know. And we just did this hour and a half and the presentation was awful of it. I looked up and Jimmy look back at it and think, that was awful, how I did that. But the feedback was phenomenal we had on it.
Support,
so,
you see.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think sometimes is like sometimes good is good enough. And hopefully people see your heart when you're doing things for the right reasons, I think. And this, but I done it for like, how many we did? Probably about, how many straight? 15, 20 straight every week. Then where stuff was happening, we were updating, you know, because then it got political, was different in England and Wales and things like that as well. But that helped me so much with what I was doing now and just have half hour. Come on, this is all the stuff that's coming on. And I think, again, with a lot of businesses, what you're doing is selling trust. Yeah. There was one guy who said, like he said, I don't even bother listening to the government anymore. What they're saying, just wait for your webinar. I was like, oh, don't do that, whatever you do, right? Because I'm trying my best to try and get everything on you, but there might be stuff we've missed. This is really hard because there's all different pockets of money here. But I thought about that. I thought, you know what? He must really trust us with what we're doing.
But that was it. It was having trusted voices in tough times, and I guess that leads us to now, and what the future looks like. Tim, what does the future look like with you and what you're involved? You survived COVID. You got a couple of businesses now. What does life look like maybe for the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's not holding on to things too tightly. Yeah, I've got a film in life, but I think going back to the accountancy practice, I sold that in 2021. Yeah, I basically come out of COVID, things have calmed down, you know, towards the end of it, and it's sort of like, I don't feel fulfilled in what I'm doing. I could do this, the business is flying, but for me, there's so much more to life than money. Yeah, you know, it's hard because we all get on this wheel of like, you know, having the shiniest things or whatever, but it's like, it's this love of money you see for so many people. I won't go into it now, but you need, whoever says you don't need money is a liar. I think this is just my thoughts, because you need money to pay your bills, keep a roof over your head. Yeah. But it's a bit where you see people lose their lives to money, you know, like, 'cause I'm having a conversation with someone and just saying, you can't carry on working like this. You know, you're going to make yourself genuinely worried for their health, how many hours they're working. They're like, the thing is, Tim, I just like the nice things. Yeah. And I'm just like, who am I to tell anyone how to live their life? I've got one life, you know, I've got to focus. Yeah. But it was just really quite sad where you're sort of like, there's a cost to that as well. You know, as you said, different roles. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I want to make sure I've got the time for that. I want to enjoy my life and not work to be all my life. But yeah, it's basically come to 21 and thought, I'd had the idea for the accountant's table in my head since 2016. I'd also had this idea for inspiring business growth in my head, where I want to help businesses because I really enjoyed working with business, helping them grow their business instead of just the numbers. And just thought, do you know what? If I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. Mm-hmm. But also realising we're just coming out of a pandemic here. I've worked really hard. I'm no different to anyone else. I can't see what I can't see. Yeah. So I had 3 sessions with a career coach, talk through what I wanted to do, potentially want to do. I went to see a counsellor for 3 sessions. I'm a massive fan for speaking to counsellors as well, because we've all got our bits what we need. But for me, I went to speak to a counsellor because I wanted to make sure that I was doing this for the right reasons. Yeah. I wanted to make sure there wasn't any baggage stuck to me that I wasn't seeing. Because I've worked my nuts off for 11 years to build this business to what it is. Yeah. I didn't want in a year's time to think, why did I do that? How could I not see that? Because I'm tired or I'm emotional or something, whatever. But yeah, that was a big process for me, having, you know, going to see the counsellor, and everything was obviously fine. Pair up with agent, had a really, really big interest, massive interest in it, which was really good. And I've been approached 3 times before to sell it. So I thought there might be a little bit of interest, but you're just hoping for a few people to go, aren't you? So I had a massive interest in it, and so I could sell who I wanted to. The 3rd guys I met, got on well with them, sold it to them, and exited. So that was, you know, with the purpose of doing inspiring business growth in the accountants table.
There you go.
So I had a cheeky 12, 18 months off then as well. I just wanted to give my family the best summer holiday ever,
Nice.
So we done all the Disney. I don't even want to think what I'd done out there. It was worth every penny, but done all the Disney thing. We went
memories, right?
Do you know what? This is exactly what life's about, isn't it? The kids still talk about that now. We were away for about 30 odd days, I think, of the summer.
Nice.
Something stupid like that. And then just sort of life went after that. I just thought, I think I'm ready to go again now. So I just started something, the Inspiring Business Growth, where I do Inspiring Business Growth. I do leadership management training.
Yeah.
I do like business coaching for directors and senior leaders. And lately I've been pulled into a lot of financial systems.
Right, cool.
Just from my background and the stuff that's going on with AI and how to make things more efficient.
Yeah.
And the accountants table, what I do with that is basically I work with practices. I've got 2 mentoring groups, and I work with practices from around the UK.
Amazing.
Someone I work with who's abroad as well. Just all going back from my experience in 2016, where it's like how it's turned out is exactly what I wanted.
Amazing.
Where people share how they feel, they're feeling, champion and help each other. I normally do an interactive presentation on something, and then I have one-to-one sessions with people, and just so inspiring. When you're seeing, like, there's one guy I'm working with, in the last year, he's had about 2 months ago, this conversation, we were talking this through, and he said in the last year I've taken on an extra 100 odd clients.
Wow.
He's expanding, his business is flying, and it's one. I'm not going to embarrass.
No, but that's it.
It's one mindset change. That's all that's happened, and I've been talking to him previously. But he'd had the courage to do it.
But what you've done is you've helped, in the areas of you struggling, confidence stuff. You've been able to give confidence to other people, and I think that's what got you through COVID. You gave confidence to people that didn't have confidence. So it's almost like the confidence curve.
Yeah.
There's a tool we could have. The confidence.
Let me write that
down. but the confidence curve is, where you struggled in the areas of confidence, you now bringing that to other people and helping them on their journey. And a lot of, for me, I teach around the aspects of the more conviction you have, the more clarity you have, therefore confidence comes with it. You have the confidence to make decisions because you're clear on what you want to achieve. And for me, it's like that's what you've inspired in other people, whether it's through COVID, you exited, and now working with the people. It's confidence. It's like, you could argue you're a confidence coach. You talk about finance, but you are giving people confidence to make decisions and informed decisions based on data and risk and that stuff. But that's what you're bringing. And it's funny, from when I look at your life, how we've examined it today, the thing that you struggled with is actually the gift that you're giving back to other people long term. It's a confidence piece. So how would people get hold of you now? How would they reach out and connect with you, Tim?
Yeah, obviously the normal stuff like the websites and stuff like that as well. I think.
What's the website? Is it?
Just www.inspiringbusinessgrowth.co.uk.
Okay.
Also, again, started another business called the FD Partnership, which I'm in the process of setting up.
Okay.
It's really interesting what you were saying earlier. It's pivoting and seeing them opportunities as well, isn't it?
100%.
And I'm not so much involved in this. I'm not the doing of this, but I'm a partner in this. I haven't had a business partner before.
Yeah.
So we've gone through the processes of that as well, which has been interesting. And Sarah, who have set us up with, I've got so much respect for her. But basically putting FDs into businesses as well now, where sometimes they don't require full-time FDs.
Yeah, that's great.
And all the stuff that's going on with the employers' NI and things like that, it's just, if you can get the systems and the processes right, sometimes you don't need a full-time FD. And I'm seeing that so much with the businesses I'm working with, is like, you desperately need someone that you're, not just an external accountant, but someone in on a, but you don't particularly maybe need a full-time. It's always, I think as an entrepreneur, it's always sort of pivoting and always sort of seeing them opportunities. But I also think you got to go for it.
Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your story and going from like the snooker background to accountancy to exit and doing what you're doing. I think the people that have spent the time listening have had immense value, and I definitely want to get you back to talk more about finance and stuff like that at a later date. But it's just been a great story of your journey today. So thank you so much for taking it.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it, and be successful in life on their terms.